We're a nationwide lead provider. We provide leads to investors, realtors, attorneys, and just your basic first-time home buyer. We've been in the business since 2004. And since then, we've been the internet's #1 destination for the most detailed information out there and the absolute freshest. I'm Tangi Cousins. I've been with the company since they started since 2004, and I've helped many investors, realtors, attorneys grow their business, increase their revenues. I teach people how to use the different types of leads that we have to offer here at Foreclosures Daily. Also teach the do's and don'ts of marketing, unique marketing techniques like what to say, what not to say, like how often to mail, how many times to mail, what to mail first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Like all the do's and don'ts of marketing. My email's on the bottom of the screen. It's Tangi@ForeclosuresDaily.com. Any lingering questions afterwards that you forgot to ask during the presentation, don't hesitate to email me or your representative that you're currently working here with Foreclosures Daily. But if you have any questions, you can email Tangi@ForeclosuresDaily.com. Ways we're different here at Foreclosures Daily is all the leads that we give you have real estate attached. Not many companies can say that. In fact, I don't know any companies that can say that. Most companies out there are quarterly and they're not physically farming for real estate. Let me explain to you and boil that down to the ridiculous of what that means. 300 people may file like probates or divorce in 1 week. Maybe only 15 of them are going to have real estate. All companies out there, and I'm not going to name any, but most of the companies out there that I've ever found, all of them actually, do not farm for real estate, and they're not weekly and fresh. They're typically quarterly or much older. And by the time you get to the leads, they're gone, old, and sold. So not only weekly and fresh, but we do farm through every single one of them to make sure that there's real estate attached. So that we do understand the importance of having fresh data, physically farm for real estate. Leads that we offer here at Foreclosures Daily are things like probate, pre-probate, inheritance, code violation, eviction, divorce, things like that. But let me tell you, probates and pre-probates by far are honestly some of the best leads you'll ever get. They have the most equity. They typically don't mind taking a discount, and they're extremely motivated to sell. People are typically 50 and 60, when they lose their parents. So they usually don't want the property. They usually want to sell the property. Now, because they didn't buy the property, they've got no skin in the game. So they typically don't mind taking really big discounts for the property either. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody make $100,000 on the wholesaling of probate. And the week before that, somebody made $75,000. Most people think you have to finish the whole entire probate process before you can take ownership of the property. And in most counties and states, that's not true. Most of the times you can purchase right away, depending on the summary administration's been filed or not. And even if the judge has like full authority or partial authority, they usually sign off on the property almost immediately just to help these people liquidate the assets and get that estate settled. So those are some of the difference between using our company and other companies out there and the different types of leads that we offer here at Foreclosures Daily. When you get our lead, you're going to get a small group of people. So get it out of your head that you need to market to thousands of people and throw tons of things against the wall and hope something sticks. It's not like that. When you work these niche group of people, you're targeting a specific group of people, but yielding a much higher response because you're targeting groups of people who typically want to sell their property versus people who don't. So you don't have to work as many to get the success that you're looking for. For example, I may only give you 20 to 25 probate leads a week. They're all going to be farmed for real estate, and most of them are going to want to sell their property. So you're dealing with a much more motivated seller. Now, some of the things that we offer here at Foreclosure Daily is we give you access to all of my marketing, all of the postcards and the marketing that I've created, things to say and what not to say. I love these postcards. This postcard here has a picture of the house on it. And if you look down here, you've got the arrow that points to the house. It's like, I put like, oh my gosh, is this your house? Are you selling this? The national average response rate to any mail marketing is like 0.5 to 1.5%. I literally have people getting 3, 5, 10, and even 15% response rates with these types of postcards. People like taking ownership of things, right? I mean, a lot of people like control, they like ownership. So, you don't really message them and say, hey, I was interested in your property because I understand you just, you're going through probate. You don't do things like that. You want to be real simple, generic, and right to the point. Hey, is this your house? I'm interested. Or, are you selling this? People like to respond to that because they're taking ownership of that property. Like, yeah, that actually is going to be my house now, and I am going to be selling that. So people are getting great results with those. Now, here's a letter that we recommend using the handwritten font. This company that we recommend, they only charge 38 to 42 cents with postage to mail those postcards for you. 38 to 42 cents, and that's with postage. Most other companies out there, if you check on the Google Street View postcards, it's like $1 to $1.10. And on these letters, they only charge 64 cents with postage to send these with the handwritten font. Most companies charge $1.25 to $1.40. This company is doing 64 cents with postage. And the minimum is 50 on the postcards and like 200 in the letters. So it's flipping awesome. Now, some of the bonuses you're going to receive are bonuses that I put together here for you. I put together a 6-step mailing campaign, a 6-touch campaign, scripts I put together for you, teaching you what to say when they answer the phone, an email to send to the attorney. We actually give you a probate book, guys. Check this out. It's called Probate Real Estate Sales 101. And the author's name is Kevin Sales, Sayles. It was written by Kevin Sales. So every single person that buys any leads with Foreclosures Daily, we always give you and mail you, physically snail mail this book to you. So it's awesome. We know Kevin because we host monthly webinars. We've had the honor of having the author of this book on multiple webinars, teaching the 7 ways to make money with probate real estate investing. And we'll give you access to not only his book, we'll also physically mail you his book, but we'll also give you access to his webinar, teaching the 7 ways to make money with probate real estate investing. You're also going to get access to my webinar of me training, teaching the do's and don'ts of marketing, unique marketing techniques. Like I said earlier, how to get people to open your mail and the do's and don'ts of marketing. So you'll get access to my hour and 45-minute long webinar too, as well as many links to receive to like reduced skip tracing mail services or skip tracing services. Like when you want to skip trace your list and get phone numbers, we give you access to a company who we have a referral partner set up with for you just to give you a discount. 15 to 20 cents to give you multiple phone numbers and emails. So we give you a lot of bonuses just for purchasing leads through us here at Foreclosures Daily. Go ahead and get your speaker on. His name is Vance Courtney. Believe it or not, Vance has come to us from, he used to be a software systems engineer for the Department of Defense. Wow. Sounds like a really important job, right? But that's what Vance used to do for many, many years. And since in 2008, he's actually been investing since 2008 and wholesaling for about 5 years now. He's originally from California, raised in Kansas, and now he's here in good old Augusta, Georgia. Hey, Vance, how you doing? Unmute yourself so we can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm doing well. I appreciate it.
No, not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And I know that you got a lot to teach the crew tonight. We got a lot of people on the webinar. People are excited to see you. And I hear you're going to be offering some really good stuff for anybody who stays to the very end of this webinar. And so are we. We're going to actually give people some bonuses just for purchasing leads through us. And also, I know you got some awesome things to give away in the end too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be one of those things that you want to just stay on for. And this is, we're going to offer some awesome like free consulting. So please listen to the very end. I'd love to give out some stuff, but yeah, I just want to be able to jump right on in and just start serving here.
One thing I did forget to do is guys, can you hear us? Type the word yes real quick so we can see your comments. Want to make sure everybody can hear us. Go ahead, type the word yes in your Q&A if you can hear us. All right. Oh, yes, there we go. Eric. Oh, hey, Eric. Hey, Crystal. Awesome, guys. Thanks, Mandy. I appreciate it, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and let Vance take this over, and I'll see you in about an hour, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro. Appreciate that. All right. So
you've been a client of Foreclosures Daily for many years and you use our leads. I know that. So I'm so excited to have you on. Thanks for taking the time out to be with us tonight, bud.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tanja. I really appreciate it. So we're just going to jump right in here. So I want to help people scale their businesses, a wholesaling business. If you're just getting started, you're doing about 6 figures or you're trying to get to the 6 figures, I want to lay out the complete blueprint. Anything is available for questions. So this is going to be really a big Q&A, and I want the chance for you guys to ask anything around sales, operations, marketing, and just like Tanji said, like Foreclosures Daily is our #1 and favorite marketing list source right now. Probate, pre-probate, just like she said, not even add inheritance because it falls in that same category. But right now, if you guys have some questions, anything when it comes to like the sales, marketing, scaling the business, getting to 7 figures, maybe even the step-by-step like process, I want to be able to give any questions, anything that's burning that you guys have for jumping on here. So first off, I've already seen some that are starting to come in is how many deals a month do we do? And then how does our system and process complement that? So right now we do about 100 deals a year. So that's about 8 deals a month on average is what we're hitting. Our team makeup is 1 to 2 acquisitions. So we kind of rotate. Those are our salespeople. 1 disposition, one local office admin / TC. And then we have 2 virtual assistants, and then the ops manager that kind of oversees that. You would say the owner, right? With that, we do about 100 deals. We did 1.1 last year, right about the same the year before, right around 1.2 million. And we've just been consistently hitting it. And I work about 10 hours a week in that business, and that's what I like about it. So this is definitely a lifestyle business that it can provide. And I love helping people and jumping on these calls to truly just start diving into any great questions that people have about tools, systems, techniques. There's nothing off limits, and everything is going to be wide open. There's not going to be a filter at all. So there's how many deals we do, and then our processes and systems. I can't tell you enough about processes and systems. I want to keep it super simple. People think sometimes that a system is your tools. And your tools are the least important part. Your process, the how you do and what you do is super important, is that you're consistent and that your team or yourself follows a consistent process. And if we have some more questions around that, we can start deep diving right into that. What our process looks like from follow-up, our sales process, how do we dispo our deals, right? How do we sell them to other investors? And we can kind of go down to that into the nitty-gritty, absolutely. All right, so where to find a reliable double close contract for Florida. So here's the thing with the contracts I can send over. And matter of fact, I'm going to make a little list here of some giveaways. But again, when it comes down to the contracts, stuff like that, you're always going to hear the same thing. Check in with your attorney, because every state does vary. But I can absolutely help out with the Florida one. As far as for a double close contract, there's not really a big difference between a double close contract and a purchase agreement. And then the next question is, are you just going to assign it, or are you going to set up what's called a B2C agreement, another purchase agreement? And that allows for a double close. You can use an assignment in Florida and actually still do what's called a double close or a blind HUD as well. Like, you have different options there. And if you have more questions on that, I can at least give you what we use in Georgia. So I'll write this down as some stuff as far as for requests. But run that through an attorney for sure, because it does vary per state, and I don't want to just give away different things. Good question. So I'm in Augusta, Georgia, and I operate in because North Augusta is we're right on the border, so we operate in South Carolina as well. So those are the 2 primary markets I'm in, is really Augusta, Georgia, about a population size of 500 to 600,000. Let's see. I'm going to kind of just scroll through here, and if I run out of questions, then I will just straight up start discussing some more things. So good question. So what CRM do we use? Here's a good tip, and I love this question. I personally use a custom Podio-based CRM now. For the last 2 years, we did use a Beast Mode, which is another Podio-based CRM. But here's what I'm going to tell you. If you're getting started, a CRM of any sort is sufficient. I can tell you, unless you're doing $500,000 a year or more, that's when your CRM really matters. So a tool that we actually started with and we migrated off of was called lessannoyingcrm.com, right? Less Annoying CRM, $15 a month. You can use a free Podio and go Podio if you want. But the reason why I'm not a fan of that is because then you got to spend all your time customizing it. And I want you just to get right into the CRM to start converting your leads. You can use Salesforce. You can use these other tools. They're just more expensive. And I want to keep the costs low when you're getting started. My order when it comes to systems is as simple as this. Some of you may have been old school, filing your papers in a nice vanilla folder as your lead sheets. That's like the old school way. I hope nobody's still doing the paper form. It worked, but it's slow. Your next evolution was people tracking it in a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet, all their leads. They're tracking all of this info, and it's just not as efficient. So just get a real cheap $10 to $20 a month CRM is sufficient to get started until you start generating about $500,000 a year. That means you're doing enough deals where now you can optimize for some automation and start using those I say more complex tools. So what's the best way to market? Love this one. So when you're picking your marketing channel, pick only one channel, only one when you're getting started, and go big. Okay. So go big, go consistent with the marketing channel. So cold calling works, mailing works, PPC, all the channels work so long as you work it. Now, what's the better channel? Sure. Some people argue cold calling over direct mail. And I first ask, which channel are you doing? Okay. If you're not doing anything, pick one. And here's how we normally try to decide between the channels. If you have, like a sales experience or you have the money, I would immediately go right into like something like direct mail and start picking up some of these niche lists directly from Foreclosure Daily and spend the money to do that. If you don't have a lot of money, then that's where cold calling steps in, because you're going to do a lot of that, but it's a lot of time over money. So again, not a lot of time, but you have the money, go the direct mail route and get a distressed niche list directly from, I'm not kidding about go straight to Foreclosure Daily, like hands down, weekly, fresh list is so important. And then on the cold calling side, the same thing. The secret to the marketing channel, if you cannot reverse engineer, this is how you can tell if you've actually dominated a marketing channel. You should know that it takes 2,300 postcards to get a deal. You should be able to reverse engineer that if you want a Jeep or a vehicle, that you need to send out, 20,000 or 30,000 postcards to get that revenue. Okay, so again, it's really simple. How many mail pieces does it take to get a deal? That's when you know you've mastered the channel. How many dials does it take to get a contract or to get a deal on the cold calling side, as an example? So the best way to market is the one that you're going to be using and you're consistent with. So be consistent. What does consistency mean? Do it for at least 3 months to 6 months. Okay. 3 to 6 months is enough time to determine if the channel is operating. Okay. All right. So perfect. Thank you. Right. I see here. And all right. So work full time right now. Time is limited. I want to know about a VA to work a list of leads and qualifying. Do you know a good company? So here's a tip with the VAs. You're going to get a lot of mixed reviews on this. I do not put virtual assistants from the Philippines on the phones at all. I coach with other clients and they've had just not very great results before coming on over and omitting that. Virtual assistants are great for admin back office tasks. Now, will you hear about people that are killing it and getting some good results? Yes, but that is not what's normal. That's rare to find a good caller overseas to qualify your leads. Now, what I would do is you do hire a virtual assistant to do cold calling, which is not the same things as qualifying a lead. So I want to be super clear on that. Absolutely hire a virtual assistant to cold call, but not to qualify your leads. Okay. And if you need some more clarity on that, let me know and just ask some more questions. I'm just going to kind of go through this. So as far as what power dialer do we use, we just switched to smartphone. However, we've been doing the 7 figures with just CallRail. Like, I am not stuck to the tools so long as you're not using Google Voice and you're not using your cell phone. Do not use those different tools. Go with something like a CallRail, Ring Central, smartphone. Those different tools work just fine. If you're asking what power dialer I use for cold calling, so cold calling, we're leveraging Mojo. We've tried Mojo. We've tried Zen Call tools, and they just didn't perform as well. And we can get into the details if you're curious on that. As far as for dialing your qualified or inbound leads, we've switched to smartphone, but we do leverage CallRail for many, many years. All right. And I've gotten mixed results on AirCall, so we don't use AirCall. Let's see. Notice when you look at a property appraisal or county file, notice that somehow wholesalers don't record the deed when they bought a property. Somehow the deed is held until the wholesaler finds a buyer. How does that process work? So what you're probably seeing is that they don't record the deed when they bought the property. What they probably have done is, and I'm going to guess, and if so, feel free to chime in a little bit more on this with the question, is what people will do is as soon as I get something under contract, and if I know a buyer is trying to go around the back and I haven't closed yet, I'll file what's called a notice of interest, an NOI, or a memorandum. And you file that directly with the county to let the county know that, hey, you're doing what you might have heard as cloud the title. And what we're doing is we're blocking the seller being able to sell to somebody else, even though I've already got an agreement in place. Now, there are times where the wholesaler doesn't record the deed when they actually bought the property. That would be interesting on if there's more details on that. But normally that's what's happening is it gets registered that a wholesaler has it locked up. I personally don't like that method unless I know that something shady is going down, because I don't like to lock up the seller for no reason. Okay. let's see, where do we get phone numbers and email addresses? If we get them, I don't focus on email addresses, and I'm going to assume that you're asking about where do we get the phone numbers for the sellers. We just do skip tracing right through batch skip tracing. It's the most, like, I'd say it is the most popular one that's available for the general public. Like if you have access to stuff like TLO or LexisNexis, where you like get direct, you can do all of that, but unless you know about it, people are leveraging things like batch skip tracing is just a really good common one to check out. Perfect. Yes to the cold calling. Yep. Let's see. So yeah, so here's the thing with, so I just saw more of the message about, because you don't know how much the wholesaler paid for the house when it doesn't get registered with the deed. That's because when you go to purchase the property, what was paid, let's say I get a deal under contract for $100,000 with the seller and I wholesale it for $150,000. You're only going to see the $100,000 that's recorded, at least in Georgia. Again, every state could vary, but at least in Georgia, you're only going to see the $100,000 recorded because that's what the seller paid or was paid for the property. And you don't necessarily see the $50,000 recorded because that's actually just a fee on the HUD. That's why you don't see it. If I were to double close it, I take it down and I buy it directly from the seller and then sell to the buyer, you would see a $100,000 purchase and then me reselling it for $150,000. So that would be why it's hard to know how much the wholesaler paid for the house. And that's a challenge in itself. And then, yes, I can repeat the process about the wholesaler locking up the seller. This is not a good technique. Some wholesalers will, as soon as they get it under contract, they go file like a notice of interest and then go back to try to renegotiate with the seller, knowing that they locked it up too high because the seller can't get out of the contract. So that's kind of like what that comes down to. What we again use it for is if the seller, like say another buyer comes around somehow and starts talking about it and wants to pay more, and we've already had a good agreement, and I feel like the seller is going to try and back out, that's when I'd file it because I do have a right, and I really try to force the buyer to pay me out, not the seller necessarily. But that's not as common as you would think, because I don't go around pushing that. We just operate with a very high level of integrity and ethics and morals when it comes down to this with the seller. Let's see. So we got another question about, do I do on market or just off market? We only do off market deals. However, if you guys are just trying to get started, do not be scared right now to make offers on market deals that have what's called 90. It's a 90 DOM or 90 days on market. So if it's been on the market for 90 days or more, send an offer to them. Send out offers because people are accepting offers on market. We have enough volume and deal flow just through our off-market opportunities that we don't need to go chase on-market deals. All right, and then how much PPC do we do? And what are the keywords that gets the results in your market area? So with PPC, I do use an agency, and so I don't have the details on the keywords because I leave that to the agency. But normally it's right along the lines of the typical, sell my house fast is a big common one that I remember. But I don't handle that PPC. I do hand it off to an agency. I'm a big fan of using vendors. So sorry, I couldn't explain that one better. But as far as how much do, we probably do about $250,000 in revenue just off PPC. And we get probably on average, it's about a deal to a deal and a half a month just from PPC. It's also the most expensive lead type. So unless you're really good at sales, PPC is not one I would quickly go to until you have your sales skills down, because it's just an expensive way to learn. How do you explain your offer amount to the seller since it's most likely significantly less than market value? Great question. So when it comes down to making an offer to the seller, we operate with full transparency. Look, Mr. Seller, there's a lot of psychology that goes behind our process on how we do our sales. But we really just speak the truth. We're a truth teller and a truth seeker. Mr. Seller, you're not going to like what I have to offer. Look, you're probably, and you're better off, and we give them these options, you're better off trying to fix it up yourself and selling it. Why don't you hold it as a rental? We run through all of the options before we get to us because we should be a last resort. Really, we are. So because we're marketing to distressed lists, like from probate, et cetera, they're already in a distressed situation. We're just trying to make sure that there's no other option and we're the only option. So we ask if they thought about listing it with a realtor. Everybody knows a realtor. So there's a reason why they're saying no. I just want them to say it so we all are on the same page. Why don't they want to fix it up? A lot of times they don't have the money. And then finally, why don't they try and rent it? They probably, again, either fixing it up or they don't want to deal with the tenants. So then we ask them, so what options do you have? And then they normally will say, well, that's why we called you, or that's why we're talking, or they kind of like, you're their option. And then we just set expectations. Look, I'm not going to be your highest. If you got this fixed up in great condition, you could probably get what that market is looking for. That's Zillow. If sometimes they talk about Zestimate, right? That's if it's perfect, near perfect condition. And you just start talking to them about that. And we just do what's called setting expectations. Okay. So, and again, when you start coming off with, you're not going to like this, they're going to still want to know what that offer is. And there's a lot more with the sales stuff that we can go over that really is helpful if you have any more questions on that. As far as show you our process, please give me a little bit more of an example, because I could like show tons and tons of process maps, but that could just be boring to get through, that we kind of run through as far as our process. But I'll make it real simple, is that we pay for the marketing. It goes out, somebody calls in on like our call rail number from the marketing that we get out using, again, just leverage Foreclosure Daily. You guys are here, just use them. They're fantastic. Then they call, okay? And as soon as they call, a lead is automatically created in our system. So when they call, if you're available, I'm going to tell you right now, live answer the calls. Have it ring to your phone. Don't wait to call them back, because somebody like me will immediately call back or pick up their phone live when they call, okay? They're not just calling your marketing piece, so talk to them right away. As soon as we're going through our sales process, and this is what's super important. So when we talk about like what's the sales process, again, that's a whole nother like half day that we could spend on just the sales process, but we run them through our sales process, and I'll keep it simple. If I want to give you like 80% of like the sales things, just here's what I'd give you. We focus on what's called the 4 pillars. Okay, the 4 pillars is this. If they qualify in any of the 4 pillars, we're going on the appointment. We're setting an in-person appointment to get the deal done, to talk to the seller and try to get them on a contract. What are the 4 pillars? So the first pillar is condition. So as long as there's some sort of repair that we need to get done, a roof, it's dated, etc., that's condition. It hits on a pillar, it's a qualified lead. Second one is motivation. Okay, so why are they calling? What is their motivation? If I find out they have some form of motivation, pre-probate is a motivation, right? Inheritance is a motivation. Doesn't matter about the condition, it hits on motivation. The third one is timeline. If they have to sell within 2 weeks because some bank is due or foreclosure is about to happen, that's timeline and motivation. That's more motivation. We're going out there. Okay. And then the 4th pillar is price. It's actually the least important pillar. Okay. If they're wanting a high number, but the condition is in disrepair, we're going out there because that's just what they wish they could get. And it's not reality. The only time we look at price is if it's already discounted and I can't find the motivation or timeline or condition, then I'm going out there because they're already priced appropriately. Now, if you get a chance and you really want to pick up some sales skills, there's a book called Never Split the Difference. And there's 2 main sales techniques that we use from this that'll help you in everything. If you guys can take away these 2 techniques, these 2 techniques will help you with not just sales, but like just persuasion and talking to people. It's called mirroring and labeling. Okay, mirroring and labeling. With mirroring, it's simply repeating the last few words of what was spoken, because that forces them to re-elaborate. So when they say, well, I'm not interested in selling my house right now, you would then mirror with right now, a little inflection on the tone, and ask right now and repeat that, because then they'll elaborate it and say it another way and you might get more meaning behind it. Okay. So that's mirroring. And then labeling is just simply repeating everything that they kind of said and paraphrasing it. But the only kicker is you got to use these words at the beginning. It sounds like, it seems like, or it feels like. It sounds like you're not ready to move right now, or it sounds like you're having some issues with your family and you're looking to go take care of your aunt and uncle, or, man, it sounds like you're having some medical issues here that's really holding you back. When you add it sounds like or it seems like, you're labeling it. And 1, it's not you stating it as fact, so it's not coming off as offensive. And 2, it allows for the correction. Even if you label exactly what they said, there's chances that that's not what they meant. And so they'll rephrase what they said again to correct you politely, and believe it or not, it works well. Or they'll confirm it. And then now you can make sure you're not assuming, and it helps you with the close. So if you can remember something out of this thing, never split the difference. Check that book out. Mirroring and labeling is the sales techniques that we apply to a lot of questions when you need to dig deeper to understand something. Mirror and label, and don't forget the 4 pillars: condition, motivation, timeline, and price. One of those 4 determines if we go out on the appointment. that is like for the most part, or like a good chunk of our sales process. And we do have like a basic sales script that we follow as well. So hopefully that kind of helps a little bit with the process of like, once we get it under contract. So let's say we go out on the appointment. Okay. We're talking to the seller. We come to an agreement. We get it under contract. I can go more into that, to the disposition process if you're curious on that. So let me know if you are curious on my dispo process. Just say dispo in the Q&A and that'll let me know that I'll continue on. Otherwise, because some people are just more curious on the sales process, getting the contract, and then they don't care about wholesaling. So let me know if you guys are more curious on that dispo process there. So how do you create deal flow as a beginner? So if I had no money, but I had a lot of time, okay? And I mean that you work a 40-hour-a-week job and you still have 20 extra hours in the week. I don't care if it's on a Saturday, you do 8 hours and 1 to 2 hours a day. This is the exact steps that I would take. I'd go find, so first off, there's a really cool source, but if you know where your buyers are buying, and if you don't know, I would go to my first RIA event. Find out where the buyers are buying, okay? You need to find out what neighborhoods they like. So go to your first RIA event. And as soon as I went to my first RIA event to go talk to the buyers that are buying and ask what neighborhoods they buy in, I would drive the neighborhood, okay? Now here's where you're gonna get different advice. People would say, go drive for dollars. So you drive a neighborhood, write down the address, spend your time, try to maybe call eventually one day. I don't want you to do that. I would drive the neighborhood, and as soon as you see a house that needs some repair, get up, get this liquid courage, and whatever you got to do, go take the courage and go knock on the door and just simply ask if they're interested in selling their property. You have to build up what we call the rhino skin. That's what we kind of dub it as, is like we're all a group of rhinos. Nothing can penetrate us. You have to be resilient and build up that objection and rejection that you're going to get. The objection handling and the rejection you're going to get. You need to get used to getting rejected. But when you go up there and ask, go and talk to 100 people. As soon as you get to 100 person, you should be able to start having talks about getting a deal. But that would be my first step if I had no money, is go find out where people are buying, and then go door knock and just start having conversations with them immediately. So those are the big things. So I'm going to kind of jump back a little bit to hit on the dispo process. So as soon as we get a property under contract, this is assuming you already have cash buyers, okay? If you do not have cash buyers, I'm going to give you some great free ways to grow your cash buyer list, okay? You're going to want to focus on getting to 100 cash buyers as fast as possible in your market. And here's the best places where they're hanging out at, and they're paying the most money for these. Go to your RIA, like I was just discussing. It stands for Real Estate Investor Association, REIA. Go look that up. Normally it's once a month. Find the time and go and visit. Your first time visiting is actually free. Go out there and take a clipboard and some paper. Put phone or name, phone, and email, and capture their information and tell them, I find off-market deals. Would you like to sign up to get notified of my next off-market deep discounted property? And they'll start signing up. Do that same list where you get people to sign up for. Go to your RIA, go to your tax sales. So go down to your county and find out when your tax sales are happening, and your auctions. This is where the buyers are hanging out to buy a property. I love to go to these areas to go find the buyers, because I wait. So I go into the beginning and I get them to try to sign up, and some people won't sign up, and it's fine. But I wait till the end and I look for the people that were actually bidding, and especially the ones that lost. I know this sounds bad, but go up there and note the property and just make a comment. Hey, would you like to, I come across off-market properties. I saw you bid on 123 Main Street and didn't get it. We do come across these properties. Would you like me to notify you the next time I come across one? And get their contact information. Okay. These are the best places to get the active buyers. Now you can buy a list for cash buyers. 100% would if you have some money. This is just a free method, but 100% buy the buyers, skip trace, and directly call them and tell them that you come across off-market properties and if they'd like to be notified if they get one. Spots that I don't like to go to. I don't like to go to Facebook and say, hey, who's a cash buyer that's interested? Because you're going to get a lot of people that are just wholesalers. They're just trying to find your deals and then daisy chain it. And that's a big thing that we can talk about if you're more curious on that. But again, get out to the auctions. It's the municipal clerk or the county clerk, whatever it is in your area, but go to the county office and you're going to go and find about the top tax sales. your auctions rate, and your RIAs. Those are the three of my favorite spots. That's actually how we built our list organically without needing to spend a single penny. But if you have a little bit of money, go buy the cash buyer list directly from Tangi. It's worth it. All right, I'm a real estate agent in the DCVA, also a DMV market area, and I would like a referral to PPC and professionals since we're not in the same market. So we'll just take a look at that. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll get our contact synced up with you. Dispo, good. I'm glad I saw that just now. So hopefully that makes sense about like the disposition process. If you guys have more questions on sales or the dispo process, please feel free to keep these questions coming, because you guys are actually like, these are really good questions. So yeah, I said RIA, auctions, and it's the same thing but foreclosures, right? So tax auctions or tax foreclosure, and then there's also like just in general foreclosures, pre-foreclosures. But call your municipal county, and there's going to be a courthouse for each county, so call those up, or the city. So here we go. So this is how we buy off-market homes. The real simple secret sauce is go buy a list directly from Tangi Cousins. This is what we do. We still do this to today. Go buy the list and have a conversation with her. Step one is you got to market for the off-market properties, and you got to get your phone to ring. That's the number one step. So again, use a tool like CallRail. CallRail is a great simple tool, $40, $50 a month. That gives you phone service. It allows for calls to come in, and you can ring the different lines. There's a lot of benefits. And I know that Tangi can help out big time. So Karen, if you got some more questions on specifically with the buying off market, please let me know if there's a particular question for sure. Buy the cash buyer list from Tangi. I'm almost positive. I'll double check with Tangi. I'm pretty sure she has a cash buyer list that she can get. And that you can then cold call as well. So how do you calculate what your offer will be? All right. So this is really a simple process because people overcomplicate this. Okay. When you're figuring out what your offer is going to be, the number one rule I have is focus on getting it under contract. When you're working with a distressed seller, it is not about the price of the property. Okay. This is what we teach. It is not about the price of the property. So when you're trying to calculate your offer, start somewhere, and then you got to tweak your formula. So when you're trying to start somewhere, again, for the people that are doing this at scale, this is not what we do right now. So again, use this as your starting point. Half of Zillow is a great starting point. Take this estimate, cut it in half, right? And just go with that 50%. Then I'll get questions like, well, what if it's in really good shape or really bad shape? Well, then take that and just adjust your formula. If it's in bad shape, really bad shape, go 40% of Zillow. If it's in good shape, go 60% of Zillow. Start there because the exact number doesn't matter. And here's where I use this as a true testament to this. There was a 10 unit that we were working with. We got an appraisal to come out. They had to come out at 2 different times. 6 units appraised at $75,000. The other 4 identical units appraised at $45,000. Same company, different appraisers, and that's how that came about. So just when you're keeping in mind ARV or this valuation is an art form more than science. I can promise you that. You go get an ARV from a realtor, an appraiser, a contractor, get a BPO done, all these different things, you'll get different numbers. So when it comes down to the offer, believe it or not, your number is not as important as it is to find out what they need and how you can help solve their problem. So in this market, when we're teaching our salespeople, we teach them how to solve the seller's problem. They're selling for a reason. They're selling because they need to. You got to look at what their problems are. Some people won't sell because they just don't know how to get their stuff out of their house. So you simply stating, hey, I'll even move all your stuff for you and we'll pack it up for you and do all of that. That may only cost me $1,000 to $2,000 to do, but that'll be worth a $10,000, $20,000 discount to the seller because you just solved a problem that they didn't have a solution for. Okay. So when it comes down to this, it's not about the price of the home and it's not about the real estate. It's 100% about how you're helping the seller solve their problem. Okay. There's different problems. For instance, there's a couple that can't even resolve they're divorced and they can't resolve who's going to get what. So sometimes we act as a mediator to find out what's going on. There's other times where we're trying to help a seller find a place because they don't know where to go to next. So they won't sell. So we help solve that problem. Okay. So notice that those aren't tied to the price of the home, but they will discount the home to actually have that problem solved. And so that's like a big focus when it comes down to the offer. How do we calculate it, and why that's really not the most important part. So use the framework and use the formula. Again, 50%. If you think it's in really bad shape, like you got to gut the whole thing, or you're like, this is a fire burn, probably then go lower or go a little bit higher. But it's not the offer that's important. It's what you're going to do to help them solve that. How are we going to provide a solution? Okay. Perfect. So you're going to hear about this. So this is just how we make offers. What I was giving you was a wholesale price because we have to get it deep enough to sell to an investor. While investors do use the 70% rule, and you may have heard that ARV minus 70% minus repairs or some variation of that formula. The whole principle behind the 70% rule was to account for, 15% was to be toward like closing costs, holding costs, all these different costs. So that way you'd net 15% profit. Like that's like the original formula for that. But depending on your market, that 70% will vary. You'll hear people use 84% of ARV, like out in Phoenix, right? They can go much higher. And so you would think there's not much of a profit margin, but that's because the prices of the home are so much higher. So again, when you're using this, it's not as much of a science as it is get out there, start making the offers and that's the rule of thumb. A lot of people will get so hung up on the price that they don't make an offer. And here's a tip I can tell you, if you can take away this, if you make 0 offers in a week, I can tell you how many contracts you'll get. So people get so hung up, I don't know what to offer. Well, make an offer, at least get offers out there, because the more offers you make, the higher chance you'll get of a deal to sign up, okay? Vacant. So what about vacant distressed homes? Do we skip trace those? Yes, absolutely. Matter of fact, we use what's called like you might hear this. It's called list stacking. Okay, so we'll pull a list of properties from like pre-foreclosure, foreclosure, inheritance. We'll pull a vacant list as an example, like just being a home that's just vacant. We have what's called our driving for dollars list, where we drove around the neighborhood and pinned addresses that have disrepair. And then what happens is we stack and overlay those lists. Okay, and any list that has more than one pain point is a higher sense of motivation. We're going to do absolutely what we can to get a hold of that, from mail to skip trace. And if we have to, we'll drive down and do a door knock. Okay, knock on the door. Hey, and you just start talking about, I'm in the neighborhood looking for a home to purchase. Just wanted to see if you'd be interested in selling your home. I mean, that's as simple as your door knock process needs to be, because you're just trying to find out if they have an interest in selling. Okay. Let's see. What about using PropStream and REI Pro? Great question, right? PropStream is a good tool to use as well. But as much as Tangi can't drop names, I can, and so I don't mind. PropStream is one of those ones that has more than they're actually getting older than a quarter in their age of the data. So I don't like using them for their data. Fine tool to use for like searching and maybe pulling some information, 100%, but nothing that you can't really do with Zillow if you're in a state that is it's called a disclosure versus a non-disclosure state. So if you're in a disclosure state, Zillow works just fine to kind of find information about what's sold and get, running valuations or looking at Zestimate, for instance. You can use it for list polling and stuff like that. It's the quality of the data is what determines our success. So we dropped it personally. And REI Pro is in the same category as that with Propelio as well, like the few tools. So, and so as far as for skip tracing, I'd highly recommend you use Batch. Now, the reason why this matters is they all pull from probably IDI Core anyway, but there's 2 other providers that I know Batch will scrub against as well. So that while they all have skip tracing functions, I will tell you that not all skip tracing is the same. And so the best way to test that is when you go through and start skip tracing, notice your connection rate. You'll start paying attention to certain details, such as the quality of that skip trace, because I really don't care about having, 9, 15, or 20 numbers. I want numbers that work and connect me to the right person. And that's what matters the most. So while I'm not opposed to using PropStream, it's just if I know there's a better tool, I prefer to use it. And we are constantly testing the different tools out there. For now, batch skip tracing is a great source. That we just kind of use as well. Perfect. These are good questions. How can I lock up deals across states, the closing and appointments, etc.? So if you live, like for instance, we live in Georgia, we're like 30 minutes away from the South Carolina border. So we can actually drive to those appointments. As far as for what you got to do is you got to take your contract and make sure if you're on the border like we are, we just make sure that that contract works in both states, right? So we just get the verbiage down to work in both states, and then we can use one contract to get it locked up. And we work with an attorney who's certified in both states. Now, you just need depending on your state. So when you're talking about going across state lines, you're one of two types when it comes to your states. You're either an attorney state or a title state, meaning you only have to work with the title company, or like in Georgia, we're an attorney state, meaning we have to go through an attorney to close the deal. We can't just use a title company. But your process for locking up deals across states is going to be very similar for your appointments, your process, etc. We do in-person appointments. We have done for the last few years. We are testing out just trying to close over the phone. And we're testing that out over the last 1 to 2 months just to kind of see if we see a dip in our closing rate. Because if we can do it all over the phone and keep the closing rate the same, that gives us scalability to go into the other states and other cities and test that out. But as of right now, we are pretty much local to our market. All right, so perfect. So there we go. So that makes more clarity. Yeah, we use DocuSign. DocuSign is one of the most trusted ones, so we just kind of go with that. You can use Right Signature as well as Hello. Those are very other, and dot something. I forgot those are some common ones. But we just use DocuSign for the simplicity of it. And it's actually pretty fairly priced when you're getting started, and then as you scale and grow, we spend a few $100 a year on the tool, so it's really well worth it. Let's see. All right, I'm just going to kind of check here, make sure I didn't miss any other. If you guys have any other questions, again, for marketing, if you want more sales, I can kind of go over sales, and then more on the operation side, hiring, all of that kind of stuff. I have no problem going over. You guys are all asking really great questions here. So let me see if I can scroll down here. Yes, DocuSign does work over the state lines. You just got to make sure the contract you upload to DocuSign is one that's is good for those different states. So yeah, we send DocuSign. We just use the Georgia contract and locked up deals over in Indiana, South Carolina, of course, and we've done it over in Florida. Again, make sure you check that it works in all the states, because like Texas has a very strict rule. You can't, using a 2-page contract, it's got to have they got a few more things that are required when it comes to that. Yes, correct. The lawyer can give you a contract, but you can't do that with the title company. That is absolutely correct. One of my tips that I would do is, if you get to RIA, like if you get a chance, head down to your RIA and just start talking to people that are doing volume. And a lot of times, if you can talk to people about getting a copy of the contract, seeing if they're willing to share. That's what we did when we got started, and then we've tweaked the heck out of it since then, of course. Absolutely. And then again, if anybody is interested, if you're interested in the contract, feel free to message me, like connect@scalebysystems.com, and just put in the title contract, and then we'll get you a copy of that contract, and just kind of mention that you were here in this webinar, and I'll send you over a copy of our contract that you can look at. But again, take it to your attorney. I really don't want you to lock something up and then get in trouble on that, because we're going to put in, let you know that to get it verified. Okay. All right, perfect. So can we do an example of a cold call? Yes, our cold call is extremely simple. So I'm actually going to do a solid here and see if I can pull up something for you guys, and just literally, that's for the buyers, cold call. See if I can pull up. We have a cold calling script that we actually use as well. Let's see if I can pull this up. Cold calling script, and I'll just kind of go over a very high level. Cold calling is designed to do one thing. Okay, it's designed to do one thing, just to see if they're interested in selling, and then you got to bring them over. So like to somebody to close. Okay, so if you're going to do this by yourself, you can kind of run through the whole process. If you are hiring a VA, you want it to be really simple. So when we're kicking this off, it's as simple as, hey, hello, hey, whatever. I'm looking for John, first name only. Okay. This is Vance. I know this call's out of the blue, but I was calling about a property I believe you own on Main Street. I just want to see if you consider an offer on your property there. We're immediately getting right into the point. You have about 3 to 5 seconds for them to hear you out, what you're about to talk about, or they're out. You don't want to sound like a telemarketer. We use a first name only for a reason. Okay. And then we only say Main Street because that's how you talk about it. Oh, do you live there off of Brittany Drive? Or, hey, do you live off of that one? Nobody says, hey, do you live off of 4604, Kitchen Street or whatever, right? You don't sound like that when you talk about an address. So we try to make it as personal as possible. And we jump straight to why we're calling. Okay. When you ask that question, you are only going to get 6 different responses. Okay. You're going to get 6 different responses. You're going to get yes, which would be fantastic, right? Or you're going to get something like, how much will you give me? You're going to get something like no, or maybe in the future, or you're going to get, how did you get my number? And who are you? Okay, let's go. We're going to go backwards on this of what's simple. Well, who are you? I'm a local real estate buyer looking to do, remodels in the area. Right? That's all you have to do. Just tell who you are, right? I'm a real estate investor, looking to, the exact verbiage is I'm a local real estate buyer looking to do tasteful remodels in the area. Use whatever verbiage you want. That's not what's most important. How did you get my number? Well, that's super aggressive. I have an internet provider named LexisNexis that I send over addresses I'm interested in. And if they have the phone number, they send it back. Sometimes I get lucky. And then immediately you go right back to the question. So I just wanted to see if you'd still consider an offer on your property there. Okay. One of the tips here, if I can give a tip, is the one who's asking the questions is the one who's controlling the conversation. So as soon as we answer the question, we immediately want to ask a question so we can control it. Because if you pause, after sometimes I get lucky, then you're just leaving it open for them to control the conversation with more questions. So we like to really revamp right back and ask them that question. Now, if it's no, we don't just hang up. This is a great question to still pop potential leads. I completely understand. So if they said no to, are you interested in an offer on your property? I completely understand. Do you have any other properties you consider selling? Maybe something that needs to be fully remodeled or something that needs a little love? Because we asked them about Main Street and maybe they don't want to sell their personal home. Maybe they have another home. Okay. So that's super helpful because they may get offensive about your actual calling of their home versus a house, another house. Okay. All right. So if they say, yeah, maybe sometime in the future. Okay, great. Should I call you back in a month? I'm really, looking for something that needs some love. Have you done any major remodeling to the kitchen and the bathroom in the last 5 years? The reason why we do that is because they didn't turn you down, and this opens up conversation for more conditions about the home. And then you'll just simply tell them, please save my number under Vance and home buyer in your phone in case anything changes. Okay. So that's just if it's a yes or maybe in the future. And then, of course, if you get, well, yeah, or how much will you give me? This is our sequence for the answer. Again, I know I'm going through this kind of quick, but feel free to play back the recording because this is like the script itself. Is, okay, great. Well, we purchase properties cash. We pay all the closing costs. There are no real estate commissions. And the best part is we buy them completely as is, so you don't have to put another cent in the property. So for an offer like that, how much would you take? Now, immediately they're going to be like, well, they might come back with some rebuttal, et cetera. You're just trying to get a conversation. They're already wondering how much will you give. So right off the bat, this is where it goes. It looks like your home is about 1,300 square feet. Is that right? Have you done any remodeling to the kitchen and bathroom in the last 5 years? You're asking this so you can get an idea of condition, why you're spending your time checking on Zillow. Okay. And so you can let them know that we're buying homes similar to yours for around, and then you use that 50 to 60% of Zillow as a rough ballpark just to see if they're interested. Okay. And then you go into my partner, let's say they still balk at that. Well, my partner runs all the numbers. So let me talk to him and call you back really soon. Okay. And this is where your cold caller will kick it to your sales rep. All right. But the name of the game here is you're just trying to find out if they're interested in selling. People overcomplicate the cold calling script. If you just got these few lines down, hey, I'm looking for John. This is Vance. I know this call's out of the blue, but I was calling about a property I believe you own on Main Street. I just want to see if you consider an offer on your property there. Like, just get straight to the point, and that's the beginning of cold calling. Now, I'm going to tell you real quick, when it comes to the cold calling, majority don't do it because that phone can weigh 500 pounds and it gets challenging because people get so hung up on what to say or how to talk or what to do. Just start talking to people and just ask if they would, if they would be interested in considering an offer on their property. That's all that really matters on the cold calling side. Okay. Does batch skip trace scrub against known litigators? Yes, they do have that DNC scrub against litigators. It's kind of one of the reasons why we do like them as well. All right. Oh, love this question. The best way to scale from 1 to 2 deals a month to 3 to 5 deals a month. First question I'm going to ask is, are you consistent in the 1 to 2 deals? Because I want consistency more than I care about, like, I'm doing 1 to 2 deals and I just did it recently. I want to see about 3 months of consistency. Because normally when you're doing 1 to 2 deals a month, you're doing it solo. And 100% your first step is make sure you've got enough marketing. So here's a tip for everyone. I like to generate about 25 leads a week to get a deal. Okay, 25 leads a week should land you a deal as you become better and better at sales. Okay, it takes some time. So if you're doing 1 to 2 deals a month, I would make sure I would sign up with somebody who can help you with sales or scaling, because your fastest way to scale is going to be through some mentor, somebody who's going to help you, who's been there and done it. Okay, that's one of the fastest ways that I personally have scaled is through mentorships. Now, if you're doing 1 to 2 deals a month already consistently, your answer to that is just increase your marketing and then watch for your deal flow. As a one person show, if you're not flipping and you're only wholesaling, you can do about 2 to 3 deals a month just by yourself. So to get to that 5, 6 deals a month, you're going to need a team. And this is where you start to hire out your acquisitions or your salesperson, as they call it. And once you bring on a salesperson, that's how you can go to over $500,000 and start really scaling that business. But your biggest thing to get more consistent on the deals is making sure you're consistent in marketing and you've improved your sales process. So go get some sales training if you can. How does a new person deal with finding out liens are on the property before reaching out to possible buyers, or what's the process for that? Oh, that's a great question. Send it over to your title company. I like my title company to start doing that work. Okay. I'm not hung up on the liens. You can use PropStream. So that's a tool that people have mentioned before. I think it's like $100 a month or something like that to search for some liens, 100%. But I don't get hung up on if there are liens or not. I actually just ask the seller directly if they know of anything that's on the property, if they got any mortgages on it. Do you have any liens, contractor liens, or any liens on it at all? Okay. But I don't do that before I reach out to the possible buyers, because the odds that there's that many liens on there that you can't sell the deal is slim. So I don't like to get hung up on that process. But again, just get it to your title company. Oh, good. No worries. Can you explain list stacking in more detail? No worries. It's pretty simple. It's you have one list and you have a second list, and you can put them inside of something like Excel if you're going to keep it super simple. And you're just trying to see how many entries are actually overlapping or duplicates that are in each list. So if there's a duplicate, that means they got 2 motivational points. So let's say you got a vacant list and you have your an inheritance list, right? Those are 2 motivational points. And all you're doing is comparing the addresses between the 2 lists. You can use something like batch skip tracing because they allow you to upload the list and to compare it. Okay. And so list stacking is just simply looking for any address that's on more than one list. That lets you know that's just a higher motivational point. It means I would want to reach that buyer. If I've got 4 or more points of motivation from all these different lists, I do everything I can to get a hold of that seller. Okay. Yeah, so it depends on your contract. So I see it says, I'm very worried to put in an offer to wholesale a house and then you don't eventually find a buyer, so you're stuck. That's actually one of the benefits of wholesaling, is that you're not actually stuck if your contract is worded correctly, because you have what's called a due diligence period. And in those due diligence period, you may not be able to find a buyer. And so you're allowed to cancel the contract without losing any of your money. Okay. So it really comes down to making sure you have a good contract. Okay. So I want to make that clear, that that's why it matters that you get it verified and that it's legal. So that way you're not, you're not breaking any laws. But yeah, I don't get too hung up on that, because that's wholesaling is the lowest barrier to entry to getting into flipping and rehabbing and getting it, moving up along the lines. How do you pay for closing fees? So we don't actually pay for closing costs. That actually gets passed over to the buyer when we close. So there is no fee for us to close. Can you use your assignment fee and have the title or attorney distribute the money at closing? Yes. So long and short, when we go to assign our rights to the deal, we're actually assigning our rights on the contract. And it's really just one closing that's happening with an assignment. So when they're closing, the buyer is actually funding and selling or buying the deal directly from the seller. And from the buyer proceeds, I'm getting a fee. And so the buyer is paying for the closing costs because when you assign the contract, you're assigning your rights with the seller. So you're almost stepping out of the deal. The buyer is stepping in to continue it. But in order to step out of that deal, the buyer is going to pay you $10,000 or whatever that assignment fee is for you to walk away from the deal so he or she can buy the deal directly from the seller. Okay. No, so wouldn't you have to have a real estate license in order to do a double close since you're marketing a property that you don't actually own yet? No, because here's the kicker. One thing is we're not acting as a brokerage. Okay. That's why it's an off market and we're not on market. Okay. So we're actually giving it to a private list of our investors. That's why you build the buyers list. And we're only marketing to our off market buyers list, a very private list. We're not marketing in a public forum. And that's how we get around it. Now, verify in your state, because there are some states, okay, and I'm curious to see what state you're in that was asking this, that where wholesaling is technically illegal without a license, okay? So this is why it's very, very dependent on your state to do a double close since you're, yes, in order to market. So there are a few states that it is illegal in, so it's a very good question, okay? When you're looking for your first deal, how do you find people are willing to work with a newbie? So I'm willing to work with a newbie, so long as they're willing to put in the effort. Okay. That's one of the things, especially when they're local, is when they're coming around, they want to ask for help. One thing I'll tell you is don't go to people to ask for information. So if a newbie comes to me, okay, and says, I really want to get into wholesaling, my first thing I'm going to do is say, hey, go check out TTP. His name is Brent Daniels. Go look him up on YouTube and he's free. Once you start taking some action on his free content, let me know what questions you have and I'll help you. So what you want to do is start showing your effort. Okay. You want to get out there and start serving and helping, when you're trying to work with people that are experienced, saying, hey, I'll buy you lunch. That's not even really worth their time, right? As much as that says, it's actually providing value. Hey, go talk to the buyers or go talk to wholesalers. Where are you looking for deals? I'd like to be your bird dog. You can even use that terminology. Where are they at? And then say, if you don't mind showing me how, I'll go do the work for you. And I just want to learn under you under the first deal, right? Learn. And that's where you gain the value instead of trying to say, hey, I'll split it 50-50. Go learn and gain a lot of the value. Okay. But that's my tip as far as like when you're looking for your first deal, find the people at the RIA that are already doing deals and then talk about how you can be a bird dog. That's a great tip, and start looking for opportunities for these investors. Okay. How do you figure out what your fee will be on the assignment? So the way we do this, because we've got it our process down, if we buy a deal at 100,000, we market it out for 103,000, and we say this is our starting price. So when we send this deal out to our buyers, we say that this is our starting price, and we go at 103, and then they bid it up. Okay, we hold one inspection or a walkthrough, and we set a time 2 to 3 days after we get it under contract. We make sure the seller's okay with it. Then our buyers will come out, inspect the property, and then they make an offer to us the next day. So the fee is based on what the buyer's willing to pay. Everybody has a different, there's two main processes around this. I do put a little bit above our price point, expecting the market to bid it up, and they do. And then there's others who will be like, I just put 20K on top of it. And then they let the buyers do like a buy it now. First one willing to pay, we'll get that, we'll get the property. The bidding process is one of my favorite ones. It's where you can make the most money. I do not have a realtor's license. So that's another good question. Perfect. So based out of Florida, no, you do not need a license to wholesale out of Florida. I actually coach with a couple of people and mentor them out of Florida right now. So you do not need to have a license in Florida. So the states that I think it's illegal is I've mixed up which one. It's either, I think it's Illinois. It's Illinois or Indiana. Oklahoma just passed a law that kind of makes it a little bit more stricter. You just got to watch the gray area for Oklahoma. And yeah, just take a look in your own state. So if you're curious on like instead of asking which states are illegal, if you don't mind, just tell me what state you're in and I'll let you know if I know if it's legal or not, right? But again, the laws are always changing, so still double check with your attorney. I just know for sure that Indiana or Illinois is one of the first states to require a license if you're doing more than 3 deals a year or something like that. Again, don't quote me. I'm not in that state, so I don't pay attention to it as close. Do you have to pay a small fee to the seller when the property goes under contract prior to due diligence period? No. And matter of fact, never pay the seller directly. If you're offering earnest money, pay your escrow company or the title company. They'll hold that until the due diligence is done and either give it to the seller, or if you execute your due diligence, meaning I don't want to do this anymore, then you can get it released. In our state, we don't need to do earnest money, so I don't do earnest money. But again, check your state on that as far as if you need to put earnest money down, but never give the seller the earnest money directly. I'm going to state that again. Don't ever give the seller earnest money directly. You may not see that money and the house may never get sold to you. Okay. All right. Oh, perfect. If you already have, well, that's interesting. So yeah, if you have if you already have a deal that you're looking at and you need some help, yeah, let me know. Again, connect at scalebysystems.com and just kind of mention what you have and we'll take a look and see if we can help out. Perfect, Florida. And you already have a license. So if you have a license and you already have a deal, your best bet is to go list it, right? Now, if you got it under contract with the seller with yourself, that's another area. It depends on the contract you use to get under contract, but you can actually take and list on the MLS directly. But depending on where you're at in Florida, I can even just sync you up with one of my clients that can just kind of help you out. Yep, Maryland is legal. I know I got a couple of friends that are out in Maryland that are doing deals out there. Yeah, so good point. So somebody asked about what do you do about mutual release states? And I'm assuming this is in regards to the earnest money. This is where I would go as low as possible in mutual release states. Because what that means is the seller and the buyer both have to mutually sign that they want to release the earnest money. Okay, so when you get down to that mutual release state, I'd keep my earnest money as low as possible when you're going through this process. And Vic asked if I'm open to mentorship. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'm going to kind of plug in a little bit here. Right near the end, I'm actually going to offer 30 minutes to 5 people, and I'll tell you about how to go about that since you guys are all staying till the end. I'm going to do a 30-minute mentoring session for the first 5 people that stay till the end and sign up. So just stay on for that. When Tanja gets on, we'll make an announcement about that, where to go. It's just something I love to do. I love getting out in the communities and just helping where I can. All right, so these are some really great questions. Look, if you guys have any other questions, please ask. I can kind of I can start just chit-chatting about some of the things that we're going through and talk about some of the stuff that I work with on my clients. But please, if you guys have any more questions, again, around marketing, around sales, around operations, let me know. I'd love to be able to help out. Some of the things that people have like concerns and actually I see another good question here. So is earnest money negotiable? Yes, 100%. Matter of fact, in some states, it's as little as like $10 to make it considered, what is it? Something tangible that you're supposed to exchange. I forget the terminology on it. It can be as little as $10, but it is negotiable. And this is where, again, I would talk with an attorney or title company just to confirm what is the minimum amount I need in this state, and then go that route, because then it makes it where it's no problem. Again, in Georgia, I don't worry about it. So we actually remove the earnest money. And if it's not required in your state, I wouldn't use it right off the bat. I'd wait for the seller to ask about it. And if the seller's asking about it, that immediately raises some flags that I want to address, because are they in it for just the money, for their earnest money, or are they really looking to sell? If I get the gut feeling that they're really looking to sell, then no problem, because they may have been, screwed over before by another buyer or a wholesaler. If they ask for the earnest money, and it just seems like that's all they care about is how much the earnest money is, and we're not really talking about selling the property or filling any of the pain points, those are red flags to us. We will just keep proceeding with it. That's not as common as you think. Most people don't even know that you put earnest money down. Remember, these are not savvy real estate people. These are individuals that are in a tough situation. They're in a distressed situation of some form, and they just need help selling their property. And so it's good. So perfect. See, Veronica mentioned that there's no set amount in Florida. Yeah, it's the same thing. So again, I don't offer earnest money unless they're asking, because I just want to get the job done in the end. It's not really about the little bit of money that they're trying to take from us. All right, I'm just double checking here if I got any other questions. All right. Yeah, so okay, so this is another good point that's being brought up. So if the deal is with a realtor in Florida, you normally put down an escrow. If you can get it off market, then it's the deal you make. Exactly. So that's 100% true. And so when they say if the deal is with a realtor in Florida, that's normally considered an on-market deal, even if it's not listed yet. They call it like a pocket listing sometimes, right? You might hear that terminology, but the realtor is going to want some security behind the purchase, et cetera. So we don't normally, when I'm working with newbies or people that are trying to grow their business, we don't focus working with the realtors in that sense because we're trying to wholesale, right? We're trying to get a deal, sell our rights, make some cash, quick cash. So that way we can build a business. But yeah, when you get it off market, it's 100% the deal you make. It's a very good share and a good point. I appreciate that. Simple for sure. Absolutely. I appreciate the kind words. How does the double check work? I think, I don't know if you're asking if it means double check or double close. If you're doing a double close, some states, again, you can use the buyer's funds to close on the deal to the seller. And then in other states, I actually have to fund the deal. And then I can, then the buyer funds their part. It just kind of varies on whether it's a wet versus a dry closing type state. Yeah. Oh, so what list stacking service or software to use? This is why I like Batch. You just get into Batch, you can text from there, you can skip trace from there, and you can list stack right inside of that one tool. So I'm a big advocate for Batch skip tracing, and we actively use them. So this isn't a tool that is like, oh, some people recommend tools based on affiliates. This is just what I actually use. So there's some good questions. Let's see. So I can talk about some other tools, right? Like if you're trying to learn to mail, email, just use something like MailChimp. All the other tools work, Constant Contact, Get Response, right? All those things work. We use MailChimp, and for the first like 20 or 30,000 people, it's like free. So it's super, I mean, it's free. So it's about as cheap as it gets. If you're just starting off, really, again, the few tools that you need is a very simple CRM, and then start paying for your list and get a phone service call route. You can start using DocuSign once you actually are getting in the process, but if you're local, just use the paper, print it out, and then get them to sign it and wet signature it, and you can scan it in. DocuSign is great to start streamlining the process once you have the process down. Yeah, so that's the thing when you say in Florida, some consideration has to be offered for it to be a legal contract. This is where you'll get into the semantics between some people. Can be as little as 10, could be something else of value. Again, talk to the attorney, because some people would say that in Georgia as well. And it really does vary on the state. However, this just comes down to like, if you're going to enforce the contract, putting something down makes it much easier to enforce. However, I'm not in the litigation game. I'm in the serving the sellers and helping them sell their property game. So I don't focus on the litigation. So we've had one time somebody tried to threaten us with that same exact thing, saying you have no consideration. This isn't a legal and valid contract. And it was. However, this wasn't even a deal for us. That wasn't that good. So we actually just let that one go. It wasn't worth the headache and the heartache. So you just got to weigh that out. We don't have that much to consider as far as a lawsuit, but for it to be a legal contract, there has to be a consideration. The fact that we're willing to sell it and we're willing to buy it is consideration. But again, talk to your attorney. Just talk to an attorney to get the real what you feel comfortable with. Everything is a risk for reward kind of situation. Yes, thank you for making the comment. When I said batch, it means a batch leads company. Yes, you'll see batchleads.io, I believe. So I'm actually going to go check it out myself to make sure I'm not mistaken. Batchleads.io is the batch skip tracing service. Yes, that's the right one to use. To take a look, get in. It was like $100 or something like that a month to get started. All right, good. Is there an easy way to find someone to do your cold calling for you? Yes, it's a simple process, but it's not super easy. So if you're going to look for somebody who wants to cold call for you, you can use a tool like upwork.com. Or you can go to onlinejobs.ph, and this is where you go find overseas people that are over in the Philippines to do your cold calling. if you want them to help you with cold calling, or you can find people over in Costa Rica is another really popular place where you can find what's called expats, meaning they're former military that's now US based, or US military living out in the Costa Rica area. So those are the ways to find it. Now, if you want a provider, or you're more curious, I can tell you like who we use to hire, where we can actually. So there's 3 ways to get a VA. Let me kind of walk through this because this is going to make it easier. There's 3 ways in which you'll hire a virtual assistant. Is one, you do it yourself. You go do it on Upwork or Online Jobs PH. You go post the job, you go find the people, you go manage them, you do it all yourself. Okay. So the cheapest way, takes the most time. The second way is you pay a headhunter to go find you a virtual assistant. Okay, and that headhunter will you pay a placement fee and they get you a virtual assistant. Sometimes it includes a free replacement, and if it doesn't work out, but then you manage the pay, you manage them, and you choose their hourly rate, anywhere from $4 to $6 an hour to do the job for you. And then the other choice is more your premium model. It's where you have an agency that actually will hire and help you manage the assistant to just get tasks done. And they cost anywhere from $10 to $12 an hour, on average about $12 an hour. So much more expensive than just paying the VA placement. But those are like the best ways on where I like to source for the virtual assistants, is using one of those 3 methods. And then last one I was seeing about CallRail. I just see it says CallRail. How does work to double check? And then it just says CallRail ? I don't know what that means, Chip. If you can elaborate maybe a little bit more on the CallRail, I can kind of answer that just a little bit more.
No, hi.
What's going on, Tangi?
Yeah, that was great content. Wow.
Yeah, I love it. So quick question for you. You do pull cash buyers, right?
Yeah, we do.
Absolutely. So to go right here, just go over and pull the cash buyers directly from here like we were talking about. This is a provider I would use.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to go over what our bonuses are and then let you get on with what you're offering, and then we'll close this out. If anybody has any lingering questions, you can always email me, and I'm sure that Vance will be letting you know how to get a hold of him. But we are doing a buy one, get one free for anybody that's on this webinar. If you haven't purchased data from us before, you do get a buy one, get one free, but it's going to be on the 6 month or the year. We want you to try to make a longer commitment. The people that make the longer commitments tend to be more successful, because they're working it longer, stronger, and harder, and it produces more success. So when people make a 12-week commitment, they're having to make a decision in 10 weeks on whether or not to renew. And you talked about consistency earlier, 3 to 6 month campaign. So obviously, how can you make that decision in 10 weeks, right?
Right.
So, if you want to purchase probate, pre-probate, or inheritance, or code violation, or eviction, or divorce, and you want to purchase, I recommend 6 months, not 3. So 3 months is $599. That's the discount. It's normally $750, but because you're on here with Vance, you're going to get it for $599. So we're going to call it referrals from Vance, $599. 6 months is a lot cheaper. In the long run, you pay $999, you get 26 weeks, and that saves you $200. And you're working it longer, stronger, harder. You're giving your list a chance to produce, function, and show results for you. So anybody that purchases a 6 month commitment or a year is going to get a free county. We usually charge 50% off for county add-ons. So normally it'd be $1,500 for 2 counties, 1 list, 1 county. But you add a county, it's half off, and it'd usually be $1,498.50. But right now you can get 2 counties, 1 list for $999. Now a year is $1,750, which is a $650 savings. So if you purchase the year for $1,750, you get 2 counties. It's normally $26.25 to purchase a year for 2 counties. So guys, you're going to get a buy one county, get one free for anybody who signs up between now and Friday. If you're already working with a representative at Foreclosure Daily, reach out to your rep. If you're not, you can reach out to me. My information is on the bottom of the screen. It's Tangi at ForeclosuresDaily.com. Don't forget the E, don't forget the S. My cell number is down there too. If you do want to take advantage of the free county, you can text me 863-698-3550. If you're not working with a rep, that's 863-698-3550, and just say that you were on the Vance webinar and you want to take advantage of the free county that was offered. So that's pretty much all I have. And I'm going to turn it back over to you, Vance, and you can tell them that you're offering for anybody who's been on this call today. I know you said something about 5 people, and I think that you're going to be offering the first 5 people you're going to do some sort of a consultation with, right?
Yes, absolutely. So before I jump into that, I can't iterate enough. If you guys get a chance, this is a no-brainer deal. Get the probate, pre-probate. Just start there. It's one of the most distressed lists. And when she said it was the biggest deal, it is our biggest deal source. So this is a no-brainer to sign up for. And I mean, the ROI is just, it's great. So again, probate, like get on that one if you can right away. Like it's a fantastic list. Now, as far as for what the offer is, so if you want, go over to scalebysystems.com and there's a form to fill out to just apply. If you apply, and then also after you've applied, I want you to send an email to connect at Scale by Systems. It's a 2-step process, and just say 30-minute strategy call, 30-minute strategy call. If you put that in the subject, after you filled out again, scalebysystems.com, just fill out the short little form. And then
Scale my systems or scale by systems?
Thank you. Very good question. Scale
by systems.com
systems.com.
and type in.
Yeah. And you know what's so funny that you were just telling me about this, and I completely did not even do this, but here's a little quick splash. So again, if you want to email, connect, I don't know if you see it, connect at Scale by Systems is the email. Just go to scalebysystems.com. First 5 to fill out the form, and also email me. We'll jump on a 30-minute strategy call. But this has to be done by this Friday, and then everything will stop. So after Friday, first 5 people to sign up, I'll get you a strategy call set up.
Vance, thank you so much. Guys, take a picture of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry, here, I'll put it back. Yeah, absolutely. Apologies. Perfect.
Take a picture, screenshot.
Yes.
www.scalebysystems.com. And would you say that they needed to put in there a 30-minute consultation or something?
Say that again?
Didn't you say they need to type something in there too afterwards, like 30-minute?
Yes, yep, exactly. Just put 30-minute strategy. So put 30-minute strategy call and in the subject line, and that'll let me know exactly what you're reaching out about. And then we'll pull up your contact information in the Scale by Systems form that you filled out, and I will be reaching out to you personally.
That sounds awesome, guys. Between now and Friday, let's get this taken care of. My buy one county, get one free. Fill out the scalebysystems.com, the 30-minute consultation. He's only allowing 5 people. And they only have until when to do that?
This Friday as well. Like Friday is the final date where we can get everything scheduled in for that. Yep.
Guys, thank you for your evening. There's like over 100 people on this call. The turnout was amazing. So guys, if you need anything, just email me, Tangi at ForeclosureDaily.com. You have the email for Vance now. It's connect@scalebysystems.com. You can email them and put 30-minute consultation between now and Friday. Thanks, Vance, for being on with us. We look forward to seeing you again next year on our webinar, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tangi. I appreciate you.
Bye, everybody.